Hi everybody, it's Miss Krista here at Riverside Art Studio, and I'm here with your next at-home art lesson. So today we are going to talk a little bit about worries. Do you ever worry? I'll tell you a little secret. I worry. Sometimes I worry a lot. And I used to actually worry that I worried too much sometimes, which is kind of a silly thing to worry about. But to be honest with you, I think most people worry. It's kind of a normal thing, but sometimes it's not that fun to worry because you're thinking and thinking about things, but you're not actually doing anything about it. So worries are normal, but it's also important to do something with your worries. Now, one thing that I do when I'm worrying too much is it helps me to kind of get those worries out of my head. So they're not like swirling around in my mind, but they're actually out there so I can do something about them. One thing I do a lot of times when I'm worrying about something is I write it down. I have a journal that I'll write things down in. Sometimes I'll just write them down on a slip of paper just to kind of get them out there. And then other times I talk about my worries. I'll find a friend or somebody in my family that I can talk to. And just even talking about your worries sometimes makes you feel better about them. So the project that we are making today, I thought could be kind of helpful, if you ever have any worries. And I actually was inspired by a project that my daughter Lila brought home from school one day. And it's called a worry doll. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of them, but worry dolls are something that originated in a country called Guatemala, which is in Central America. It's just to the south of Mexico. And in Guatemala, they make these worry dolls. And they're actually very small. They're made out of fabric, made out of different things, but they're these little tiny dolls. And kids use them there to tell their worries to. Now, the story goes that each kid has this little group of worry dolls. And what you do with them is you give each doll one worry, especially at nighttime. If you're worried and you're having a hard time falling asleep, you can give each doll a worry. So you tell them your worry. And then you put them underneath your pillow, and then they hold that worry for you so that you don't have to think about it and so that you can fall asleep. And sometimes when you wake up in the morning, your worries are gone. Or you might have the solution to your problem because the worry dolls, they hold that worry overnight and maybe help you figure out a solution. So I thought, man, this would be a great project to do with my kids. So we are gonna make a group of worry dolls today. Now these are some that I made. My daughter Lila and I made these together. I made some and she made some. But you can see them, they are very cute and they all have their own little personality. And we made them using different materials. And I'm gonna show you how to make your own today. Okay, so here's all the materials we're gonna use today in order to make our worry dolls. First, we've got our clothespins. We've got 4 clothespins because we're gonna be making 4 worry dolls. I've got a bunch of yarn, string, and ribbon. I have some pom-poms. I have some lace. You can also use fabric. I've got a pair of scissors. I've got a little pouch to keep them in. I have a piece of scrap paper, and I'm gonna tell you what that's about later. I have some markers, some glue, a brush to spread the glue, and then I've got a damp paper towel, or you could use a damp dish towel, washcloth. You just need something to wipe your fingers with. And that's everything that we have in order to get started. Okay, so I've just changed my vantage point so that you guys can see a little bit more closely what I am doing. So I'm gonna show you just the very most basic way to make one of these worry dolls. So here's my clothespin. I'm gonna start by doing the clothing first. You can see on the clothespin it's got these different parts. You can see up here, this is the head, and then here we have the upper body, and then here we have the lower body with the legs. So I'm gonna start by making the shirt, and I'm gonna start right up here, right underneath where the head is. You can see where this little indent is. That's kind of like your doll's neck. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get myself a piece of yarn. I'm going to put some glue right where the neck would be. And I'm going to really kind of layer it on there. because yarn will soak up a lot of the glue. So you kind of want to have a lot, you want to be able to see that glue. Okay, so now I'm going to take my yarn and I'm going to just press it into the glue. I'm gonna hold it for a few seconds so that it kind of soaks up that glue and sticks. Then I'm gonna see if I have enough glue. Okay, I'm just gonna wipe my fingers on this little wet paper towel. And then I'm just gonna hold this in place and I'm just gonna start wrapping. You wanna wrap pretty tight. I'm just gonna keep wrapping until I get to my doll's waist. I'm not leaving any space in between. I'm wrapping so that my yarn is really touching each other. Okay, so I'm gonna stop my shirt there. You could also extend it down if you wanted to, but I'm gonna stop there. I'm gonna cut my yarn. So I'm gonna get my scissors. Now, when you're cutting something that's a little bit hard to cut, like yarn or fabric, you don't want to use the tip of your scissors because this is the weakest point of your scissors. When you're trying to cut something and you're having a hard time, you want to use the base of your scissors. This is the strongest part right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open my scissors super wide and then I'm going to cut using the base. Okay, and now I'm gonna figure out where the end is gonna be of my yarn, and I'm gonna put a little bit of, actually I'm gonna put some glue right here. Okay, and then I'm just gonna take this and I'm gonna press it into that glue. Just hold it there for a few seconds so that it starts to stick. Okay. So now I am ready to continue on with my pants. So I'm gonna switch the color. And put a little extra glue on there. Don't get frustrated if your yarn starts to pop off. Sometimes you really need to add a lot of extra glue, and then once it dries, it will hold. And this glue dries clear, so also don't worry if you have kind of like a big glob. All right, so I'm gonna put a little bit more glue here. Gonna find the end of my yarn. I'm gonna press it into that glue, hold it for a few seconds, and then I'm going to start to wrap again. And that wrapping, if you're wrapping it tight enough, is gonna just hold that in place. Making sure that my yarn is touching. We don't want any big gaps in there. Good touch here. Okay, so now I'm gonna start making this side of my doll's pants. So instead of wrapping around the whole thing, which you could do if you wanted to do this, if you wanted to make a skirt, you could, but I'm gonna make pants. So I'm gonna pick a leg. I'm gonna start with this leg right here. And I'm gonna start, actually, let me do one more. Okay, and then I'm gonna go in between the legs. So I'm just gonna wrap around this leg first. You wanna make sure you pick a pretty big piece of yarn for this, for the pants, because you do a lot of wrapping. If you ever did run out of yarn, you could just start a new piece. You know, just glue it at the start like I showed you. Okay, one more. Okay, now I wanna do this leg next. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my yarn, I'm gonna start wrapping back up again. I'm gonna head back to the top up here, and now I'm just gonna go down the other side. just gonna keep going until I get to the bottom of this pant leg. Maybe one more. Good. Okay, so now I am going to cut my yarn. Again, I'm opening my scissors super wide. There we go. Now I'm just gonna glue this down. So I'm gonna put the glue right here. Okay. And again, I'm not super worried about this glob of glue here, because when it dries, it will dry clear and you won't notice it so much. You can hold it in place. You can even kind of smush a little bit of that over there. It's gonna take a little bit to dry, so again, don't get frustrated if it starts to pop off. I'm gonna give this a little trim, because I have this little tail sticking off here. I'm actually gonna paint a little bit of glue just on top and underneath. Just kind of smooth that over. Okay, now actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to just let this sit, because if I try to mess with it right now, this is gonna keep popping off. So I'm just gonna put him down, let him dry a little bit, and then we will continue on with the next step. Okay, so now I've given my Worry Dolls yarn a little bit of time to dry. I just held the end in place for a couple of minutes and then just like let it sit for a little bit so that it had some time to you know, become sticky and start to dry. So now I'm ready to add my Worry Dolls face and shoes. So I'm just gonna use a magic marker for this. And I'm gonna just very lightly, because we're drawing on wood, sometimes the wood has a tendency to like soak in the ink from the magic marker, so you don't wanna like press really hard or it could kind of spread around a lot. So I'm just gonna do a really quick dot, and then a little smile. You could also add a nose if you want to. I'm going to give my Worry Doll some shoes. So I'm just gonna color this with the magic marker. Okay, and then last but not least, I'm going to give her some hair. So I have a little piece of yarn here that I'm gonna use. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to take my brush, I'm gonna put a pretty big glob of glue on the top of her head. And then I'm going to take this yarn and I'm just gonna stick it on top. And this is the same thing as before. You wanna press it down and then give it some time to dry. This yarn is kind of sticking up on the sides. I might do like a little bit on the sides of her head. And press that down to hold it in place. And the same thing as my clothes. I'm just gonna hold it for a little bit and then just leave it alone so it has some time to dry. And there we go. This is like your basic Worry Doll. Now, of course, there's a lot of different ways that you can do this. I'm gonna show you some different alternatives of ways to make these. Okay, so I just wanted to show you some different variations. So you can see on this Worry Doll, I just used marker for the clothes, so you don't always have to use the yarn. You can use marker to draw the clothes and the shoes and the face. You can see I have some pink hair up here and then a little pom-pom glued on top for, this could be a hat or a bun. This one I used embroidery thread, which is also like the kind of yarn you can use for friendship bracelets. It's just a little bit of a thinner yarn, so you just have to do a little bit more wrapping, but you can also do that. And then I glued on a big pom-pom for kind of like a big poof of hair. This one here is the same way that I did before, but you see it that I wrapped it down a little bit lower. I almost feel like this looks a little bit like a mermaid tail. But yeah, so you can see there's a different way of wrapping. And again, with the hair, I put, you know, more than just one piece of yarn for like a fuller head of hair. And then here's one here with, again, the marker clothing and a little bit of lace glued on for the clothes. So you can see there's lots of different ways to do this. Okay, so as you guys can see, there are so many different ways to make these really cute worry dolls. These are all some I made, some my daughter made. You can see the different kinds of materials that we used in order to make them. So really you can get super creative with these and make them however you want. You could make them into superheroes. You could even make animal worry dolls if you want to turn them into like dogs or bears or cats. Really, the options are endless. So you guys can get as creative as you want. Now, when you are finished with these, we are going to be making a little pouch to put them in. So if you have one of the kits for this lesson, it came with a little pencil pouch and a scrap of paper. The reason we have the scrap of paper is you're gonna just kind of put this inside when you are decorating your pouch, because we're gonna decorate these with the markers, and you can decorate them however you want. You can draw pictures, hearts, rainbows, you can write little things on there. You can see this one I made says, "Don't worry about a thing, because every little thing is gonna be all right." A little Bob Marley quote on there with a rainbow and some hearts. Here's one that my daughter made. It says, "Don't worry." The reason why you're gonna use the scrap paper inside is because if you don't, some of the marker might go through to the other side when you're coloring. So if you don't want that to happen, we're just gonna put this inside just to kind of catch any like ink that might go through. So yeah, so we're gonna decorate those pouches, and then we're gonna put our worry dolls inside. You can store them in here, and at nighttime, put them underneath your pillow. Let them hold your worries for you, and you can get a good night's sleep, and you know that they're taking care of it. So I hope you guys have fun with this. If you make some, take some pictures, send them to me. I want to see what you guys come up with. I hope you all are doing well, and I will see you again soon.